It's actually a little hard for me to describe how much I loved playing Hades. It's one of my most played games of all time. I jumped into it in the early beta days on Epic Games and immediately purchased it to play on the go on Switch when it hit its full release. All in all, I put over 150 hours into the game, something that I really don't do all that often. Time is limited. Supergiant Games has been among my favorite developers for a solid decade now, going all the way back to Bastion. And when they announced their first sequel, and that it would be the continuation of one of my favorite games of all time, I was both surprised and extremely excited. Hades 2 picks up where the original left off in terms of gameplay, and mostly in story, taking place just a few years later, making some interesting changes that, despite having similarities to its 2020 indie mega hit sibling, takes things into a fresh direction. If you love the original like I do, I'm almost certain you'll feel the same about the sequel. Hades 2 is a special game that expands and improves in so many ways, while also keeping things familiar in areas that it needs to. Once I found out that Supergiant might release this game in 1.0 this year, I shouted from Olympus itself that it will likely be my game of the year. Now thankfully that epic climb was worth it, and I am almost certain this will be another all-timer.
Straightforward.
Not too long after the events of the first Hades, you're now in the fiery shoes of Melinoe, sister of Zagreus, the first game's protagonist. But it's this time around, you're not looking to fight your way out of hell, you're on your way down to confront a new threat. Kronos, who is your, or her, grandfather, the god of time, has imprisoned your family and taken over Tartarus and the House of Hades. Essentially, every comfy, home-based-like area that you became familiar with in the first game has now been overtaken. As with the original, the story will continually progress and play out as you complete and mostly fail run after run. The roguelite mechanics are still here, and our well-written and fantastically voiced characters are there again to deliver the goods. How, why, and what Melinoe's place is in all this becomes evident over time. The way Supergiant crafts its narrative and how it's delivered was always something I adored about Hades, and I'm glad they've continued that work here.
At least the family knows about you now. Always wanted to say, message to Olympus, Persephone and Hades had another kid, and she's all right. But Heck knew we had to wait, and she knows a lot, so my lips were sealed.
Hades 2 is very much a sequel. It plays similarly, has familiar characters and ideas, and even rocks the house with even more awesome music from composer Darren Korb and his surrounding musicians. But all of that is a good thing. In fact, I'd say it's a wonderful thing. It was hard to take the grin off my face while playing this game, whether it was in the fast-paced action or just hanging out in the crossroads. So how about the gameplay itself? As I mentioned, it's still the same isometric roguelite action-based combat. This time, however, Hades 2 has you equipped with another resource to manage your kit. Mana allows Melinoe to unleash a number of different moves by holding down one of the 3 attack buttons on your controller. Most of these are projectiles, but some, like the axe, will have her spinning in a whirlwind death machine. Each weapon feels like its own thing. Some may be quicker than others, but even the 2 more projectile-based weapons act vastly different from one another and force you to take new, fresh approaches to your run. Once again, all of your skills, passive or active, can be enhanced and multiplied by the gods of Olympus. With some familiar faces and some exciting new ones, no kit is the same. Some of the most effective and most fun combinations I had surprised me and had me toppling Kronos and other big bads faster than I could say, so mote it be. There's also the task list and additional resources that you'll end up gathering along the way. These are good enough to do the trick, but from time to time it can feel a little bit like busy work. It's one of the only quote-unquote flaws, I would say, that I've found in Hades 2 so far. But on the flip side, they too end up pulling you in directions you might not have taken before. Need a garlic seed in order to complete a certain task? Well, you have to try and survive on path A. Need some marble? Well, get closer to Kronos. Need another resource that you haven't seen before? Well, take path B.
Great Mother Gaia, listen to my heart's desire. So mote it be.
And before I go any further on any of my last points I want to make here, there are some spoilers coming up in the next 30 seconds. So just a heads up. That's right, slight spoiler, just so you know.
Something's changed.
One of the best and most surprising ways that Hades 2 separates itself from its predecessor is the wild decision and awesome idea for the game to essentially be twice as big. It takes several hours to get there, but once you're able to venture above ground, on the surface, towards Olympus, and break an age-old spell, Millennium traverses uncharted territory, and one that is so different from the underground, it honestly feels like you're playing Hades 3. Sure, the gameplay remains pretty much unchanged, but some of the gods and most of the foes are new and just as polished and entertaining to either befriend or destroy. Heading to the surface is a great idea, it's fun, and keeps you hooked. Then there's the arcana, keepsakes, and spells that Millennium and her headmistress conjure up in order to alter runs and provide boosts for future attempts. These are largely connected to the resources I mentioned above, but arcana and tarot cards are a specific area of enjoyment for me. Here you'll be able to combine a set of number of passives that could either give you more health or mana, provide ways to alter rewards in the underworld, give you faster movement, or even increase the chances of receiving better boons from the gods. Some of this was seen in Hades, sure, but this way that they do it, it ends up being a little bit more robust and interesting, a way of weaving your own unique loadout for your playstyle and what weapon you may be taking along with you. There are also charming familiars that you'll eventually learn how to befriend, each with combat advantages and resource gathering perks. They may not change the game largely, but it is quite fun to hear Millennium make some new friends along the way and be amazed at what they can do while you're battling. It's of course worth noting that Millennium herself is quite the character and quite the charmer. She's determined, talented, and wants to take care of those around her. She's inevitably going to be compared to Zagreus from the first game, but they not only have distinct personalities, they move and perform differently on the battlefield. These play out throughout the game as you not only have a sprint maneuver this time around, but the lead hero is also approaching relationships in new and interesting ways. Her upbringing as a witch not only fits into her mana abilities, but her view on the world and how others view her. By all accounts, what you get in gameplay and story in Hades 2 is exceptional. Supergiant Games decided that why fix what isn't broken? Instead, they made some small improvements in several areas that overall add up to a larger, more interesting, tighter, and incredibly looking and sounding package. This is a sequel that in some ways didn't need to exist. Like a good movie or limited series, classics can live on in their own terms and be enjoyed or remembered for decades. Why push things further than they need to? But what has happened here is that the sometimes big, sometimes incremental improvements that make Hades 2 what it is, creates another all-timer in my opinion. Maybe this won't convince everyone who isn't already a fan of this genre, and that's okay. But I do think if you have even a passing interest in this game, its predecessor, or others like it, you will have dozens of hours of enjoyment on your hands, and honestly, probably even more. Hades 2 is a special achievement in gaming. It is my pleasure to be able to play this game, let you know what my opinion is, and say that Hades 2 is definitely a console creature's 10 out of 10.
Survived all that.